Hi guys, Remy here, and today I thought I would rank Beatles albums based on how much I enjoy the album in its entirety. So I'm really excited. This is a video I've tried to make several times and I finally got my definitive ranking. I just want to say that this is my opinion, so if you rank Beatles albums in a different way to me, just because my opinions are different does not mean I am attacking your opinions and your music taste. Everyone has different opinions, everyone has an album or a song that means more to them than someone else, so please respect my opinion, and I really hope you enjoy, because it's always interesting to see what other people think. I do want to clarify that I will be talking about the UK albums, except for Magical Mystery Tour, which has become part of like the, I guess, canon 13 studio albums. I'll also be talking about the Spectre version of Let It Be, so not Let It Be Naked, even though Let It Be Naked is superior. But yeah, so the UK albums, the standard 13 studio albums, so no compilations, no anthologies or anything, just good old Please Please Me to Abbey Road. And yeah, so let's get started. So coming in at number 13, we do have Yellow Submarine. Now I'll just clarify, this is the version that was originally released, so that side B is George Martin's compositions and not the Yellow Submarine song track from 1999, because that's a different album. So yes, Yellow Submarine is dead last. And this is purely because this doesn't really feel like a Beatles album. It's like half a Beatles album and then half George Martin. Now don't get me wrong, George Martin is a fantastic producer and composer, but when you want a Beatles album, you want a full-on Beatles album, not half a Beatles album. Also, this album only introduced 4 new songs, and to be honest, I only like 2 of the 4 new songs. I love It's All Too Much so much. It's such a fantastic song, and in fact they even cut it down, because they're in the Yellow Submarine film towards the end, there is a verse you hear in the film which you don't hear on the song, which is a real shame, because I would love to have like the full version available, but sadly it's not. Yeah, so I love It's All Too Much, and Hey Bulldog is severely underrated and really, really fun. So those 2 songs are fantastic. However, I'm just not a fan of All Together Now and Only a Northern Song. They just, I don't know, I just don't like them very much. I think they're just not very good. And then the other Beatles songs that are on the album are All You Need Is Love and Yellow Submarine, of course. But because they're already from previous albums, it just feels a little bit, it doesn't feel very complete. It feels like it was kind of rushed, and it just doesn't feel like a Beatles album, so by default I'm gonna have to put Yellow Submarine last. So yeah, I don't think many people will fight me on that, just because it's not fair to the other 12 proper Beatles albums. So yeah. Coming in at number 12 is Beatles for Sale. Now, I said this because obviously when A Hard Day's Night came out, it was a revolutionary album for them. It was the first Lennon McCartney album, no covers. It just was a massive step up, and it was a soundtrack album. So to go from A Hard Day's Night to Beatles for Sale, where there's a lot of covers, it just feels like a huge step back, you know? And some of the covers aren't very enjoyable to me. Like, I don't like rock and roll music at all. Kansas City, Hey Hey Hey, it's not a song that I'd think, oh yes, I have to listen to that, it's such a good song. It's just a little bit alright. And yeah, this album is very meh for me. There are some great tracks on this album, don't get me wrong, like 8 Days a Week is incredible. I love the fade in and everything. Every Little Thing is a great song. I love the harmonies. I'll Follow the Sun is very cute. What You're Doing has some great Paul vocals. It's just, this album just as a whole is very country, and I can occasionally like country, but this album I'm just not a fan of. Sorry if you like Beatles for Sale, it's just a bit meh to me. Coming up next, now this one's a bit controversial. but I've put A Hard Day's Night here as number 11. Now don't get me wrong, this album is revolutionary. Probably has one of the best intros to an album ever, with George's 12-string guitar chord opener, and that whole guitar throughout the whole album is amazing. And the singles are really good. So A Hard Day's Night, Can't Buy Me Love, what other songs? And I Love Her is beautiful, I'm Happy to Dance With You. There's just the songs that weren't featured in the film, I don't know, I just find them quite boring. Or at least they don't really connect with me. I don't feel very engaged in the album when I'm listening to them. They just feel a little bit, but they're a bit forgettable to me. They're not very notable. And then there are some songs in the album that I just honestly don't like. I don't like Tell Me Why. I know it was featured in the film, but I'm not a fan of it. Songs like You Can't Do That are fantastic. Like, I love the guitar, I love the backing vocals. So yeah, I do like some of the tracks on this album, but just as a whole album, it begins to lose a bit of steam for me. It has a very strong beginning, but I think towards the end I'm just a bit, I'm not as engaged as I was at the beginning. Really sorry, because I know A Hard Day's Night is one of the albums that a lot of people talk about. I just prefer the other albums I'm about to mention a lot more, so yeah. Coming up next at number 10 is Let It Be, the Spectre version. Yeah, I have a lot of problems with this album. Number one, it doesn't have Don't Let Me Down, and I'm like, why? Why would you put Maggie May and Dig It on this album, but not Don't Let Me Down? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This album just annoys me, especially because it's very overproduced. It's obviously got Phil Spector's Wall of Sound all over it, and that just doesn't feel right for a Beatles album. Like, if it was George Martin, it would be so much better. We don't need an echo on Ringo's hi-hat all the time. Like, it just feels a bit too much, especially when the whole point of this album originally was to get back to basics. So it just feels like the product is very confused. And don't get me wrong, the tracks on here are phenomenal, but they are so much better on Let It Be Naked. And whether they were recorded from the rooftop concert or just different takes or just different effects used on the songs, Let It Be Naked is so much better than Let It Be. And Let It Be just has, I don't know, also the whole concept of Let It Be, because it was recorded during quite a stressful time for the band, I do believe that the documentary and just all the media and all the stories about what was going on during the sessions just kind of leaves a bit of a negative connotation on the album. It can feel a bit depressing at times. But yeah, that's just my opinion. If Let It Be Naked was included on here, I'd probably rank it a lot higher, but because this is the normal standard Let It Be, I'm leaving it at number 10. And I just don't listen to it a lot, so yeah. Next at number 9 is Help. Now, I originally didn't like Help very much, but especially throughout this year, I've grown to like this album a lot. It's really fun, it's a great soundtrack album. You can clearly hear the band's evolution. They're becoming better and better. Yesterday, one of the greatest songs ever written, is just beautiful and fantastic. However, there are some songs on here that just feel really out of place. Like Dizzy Miss Lizzy, like why is it on here? And Act Naturally is my least favourite Beatles song ever. Like, apart from Revolution 9, every time I hear the beginning of it, I always skip it. I just hate it. But yeah, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, especially after Yesterday, just does not make any sense. Like, why would you end the album with Dizzy Miss Lizzy? Why is it even on there? Really, you couldn't find anything else to put on the album. Some songs I find a little bit boring or just not interesting. For example, Tell Me What You See. Just not a huge fan of it. But the singles on here, the more notable songs like Help, I Need You, Ticket to Ride, Yesterday, also You Like Me Too Much, I've Just Seen a Face, fantastic. But as a whole album, there are a few songs I could go without, so that's why it's at number 9. Coming in at number 8, it is the White Album. Bit controversial, as if some people might think it's quite low to put the White Album at number 8, but basically I love so many songs on this album. However, I feel like they work better on their own rather than a part of one huge album, because the album is so long, and because around this time the members were basically working on their own songs on their own for quite a bit of it. It feels very disconnected, it doesn't feel very cohesive, and some people might like that, but to me it just feels all over the place, and it doesn't feel like a band working together so much. It's like solo artists using each other for each other's songs. Not saying that the songs are terrible, the songs are amazing, but for an album it just doesn't feel quite right to me. That doesn't mean I don't listen to the album. I listen to the album quite a lot, but I do sometimes find myself quite tired or fatigued because there's so many songs, and there's quite a few songs that I feel like the album would have been better had they not been on there. Like, do we really need Wild Honey Pie? You know, why don't we Do It in the Road? It's just, I feel like this album has so many hits, but it does have quite a few misses. But I gotta say, it has a great opening. I love Back in the USSR, Going into Dear Prudence. Glass Onion's a fun song. It has a very strong beginning, the album. Of course, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Mother Nature's Son, Helter Skelter. Again, the songs are amazing on the album, most of the songs. I just don't feel like it works together though, apart from the beginning. It just feels too long. Maybe if they had had done 2 separate albums instead of doing a double album, maybe it could have been better. Maybe do all the songs that they wrote in India as part of one album and then the rest of the songs in another. I mean, props to them for still making a great album. It's just, to me, it just sometimes feels a little bit all over the place. Coming in at number 7, we have Magical Mystery Tour. This album is so fun, it's so underrated, it screams Summer of Love 1967, and I love that. This whole album feels like a trip, an adventure. You start off with like, come on, let's roll up the Magical Mystery Tour, and then you end on All You Need Is Love, and what a beautiful song to end a beautiful album. Plus, this album has amazing imagery. There's a fog upon LA, sitting in an English garden waiting for the sun. It's just so many amazing lyrics in this album. Some creepier songs like Blue Jay Way, and then some mad songs like I Am the Walrus, and then upbeat Hello Goodbye, and then of course Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. They just fit so well here, and they're just so fun, and some of the best workers on this album, and it barely gets talked about, and it's a real shame. I need to listen to this album a lot more than I do, but when I do listen to this album I pretty much enjoy every track, so yeah, it's just really, really fun. It's great. Coming in at number 6 is Please Please Me. I love this album because it's so cute. It's a great debut album, very fun. Whenever I hear this album, I just want to dance all the time. It's just great. I just don't like the harmonica. I feel like the harmonica is a little bit too much. It's a bit overbearing. John, you don't need every song having a harmonica, like calm down. I do like the harmonica occasionally, like I love when it pops up in Rocky Raccoon. I love it when it's in John's solo stuff like Oyoko. Just not a fan of it in Please Please Me. Like, we don't need that much harmonica. But I'm always in the mood for this album. It's just so fun, short but sweet, and that's great. Coming in at number 5, we've got Revolver. Tracks like Eleanor Rigby and Taxman and Love You Too and Tomorrow Never Knows are bloody phenomenal, and they are amazing. Eleanor Rigby was like probably the first song that properly introduced me to the Beatles, so that song means a lot to me. And the intro to this album is iconic, with George's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 hitting into Taxman. It's just great. The album has an amazing beginning, an amazing start, but for me the middle is either really weird or a bit boring. To me, Yellow Submarine does not work with Revolver. It's great that they did a novelty song, but for me it just ruins the flow of Revolver. I don't think it works. It works a lot better on Yellow Submarine than it does on here. And then tracks like Good Day Sunshine and Dr. Robert, I just they're a little bit meh for me. I don't find them interesting. I don't listen to them a lot. I'm not very intrigued by it. But like I said, this album has a amazing beginning and a fantastic end. It's just the middle tracks, they kind of lose me a little bit. But yeah, I know it's a bit controversial because a lot of people love Revolver, and I do like Revolver. It's just as a whole album, some tracks I'm just not a fan of. Coming in at number 4, I've got Rubber Soul. I am almost always in the mood for this album. The first side is so fantastic, and it's such a great intro with Drive My Car because it's really showing the growth from Help. It's getting a bit more rocky, a bit more groovy, and I love it. The harmonium on tracks like The Word is just amazing. Like, it blows me away. It just makes me want to dance so much. I don't like the songs like Wait or Run For Your Life. Like, the majority of side 2 I'm not really a huge fan of. It's just not really my thing. If I Needed Someone is fantastic though, so I love that so much. The guitar and the harmonies are just beautiful. And then songs like Norwegian Wood and Michelle are so gentle and lovely. They're like perfect for the summer, but then they're so nice and cozy in the winter. The albums have great imagery, like Norwegian Wood with all the descriptions of the fire and everything. It just makes you feel all warm inside. And this album is just so great. It's very relaxing but upbeat as well, and I just love it. I love it a little bit more than Revolver. Like, Rubber Soul and Revolver for me are always like going head to head, but if Revolver's here then Rubber Soul's here. Coming in at number 3 is With the Beatles, and I love this album so much, and it's so underrated and it pains me. This album is such a feel-good album. It's cute and sweet. It's basically everything I was saying about Please Please Me, except there's not nearly as much harmonica. Is there even any harmonica in With the Beatles? I'm not sure, but it's not annoying, so that's good. The covers on this album are so cute. Like, Till There Was You is just one of the best covers that they've done. Like, Paul's voice is so sweet and amazing, and it just makes you want to be like, oh, Paul, isn't he just a dream? Every time I play it, I just feel like I'm back in the 1960s, and I'm gonna be picked up by my date and we're just gonna go dancing, especially with songs like All My Lovin'. I just want to dance to it so much. It's just so lovely. And then George's first song, Don't Bother Me, is on this album, and even though he did say that he didn't like that song, I love it because it's very moody but it's also groovy at the same time. Ringo really shines on this album. There's some great drumming, great vocals from him as well. Paul has some great vocals as well on here too, and I pretty much like every track except for Little Child. That song's I'm just not a fan of it, but I really like this album. I'm just always up for it. It's short and sweet, and I'll always be dancing to it. And I know some people might think, why have you put this above Revolver and Rubber Soul and Help? Like, what the hell? And the White Album. But you know, sometimes I'm just in the mood for more early Beatles. It's almost flawless and I love it. It's number 1 and number 2. For months my opinions kept changing, but I've definitely sorted it out now. Coming in at number 2 is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because I can never get sick of this album. This album is so good. It's definitely my most played. It was the first album of theirs I got on vinyl, so it means a lot to me. She's Leaving Home, I would say, is probably my favourite song by the Beatles. It's either She's Leaving Home or Hey Jude, but She's Leaving Home makes me cry pretty much almost every time. It's so beautiful, it's so underrated. That harp just makes me just fill up with tears. It's just so sweet, and and the counter melodies and everything. And then Sgt. Pepper is a great intro, and the reprise is great, and then it going into A Day in the Life. A Day in the Life is definitely the best ending to any Beatles album. It's just that chord, wow. I love the harpsichord in this album, especially in Fixing a Hole. The F minor notes in that song, with all like the augmentation and decorations onto it. I love Fixing a Hole. It's so good. It's so classic 60s and I love it. It's so daydream-like. And the reason why this album is number 2, not number 1, is because there are some songs I either skip because I don't always want to listen to them, or I skip because I just don't like. And I don't like Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. I love the Love version because it's mixed in with Helter Skelter and I Want You, She's So Heavy. But the normal version I find a bit boring. It's impressive, but I find it boring. Good Morning can sometimes get on my nerves. Side 2 does have Within You Without You, which is such a beautiful song by George. It is phenomenal. It's so good. The guitar work in the whole album is so fun and psychedelic and just exciting. This album is so beautiful, so vibrant, so lovely. I love like all the influences. It's like it plays around with different genres, but it still feels cohesive at the same time. Lastly, number 1, we have Abbey Road. I listened to this album recently for like the first time in a while, and it was like I was listening to it for the first time. It's just everyone is on their A game on this album. Side A is just as good as side B. Everything works here. It's fantastic drumming by Ringo, especially in Come Together. Like, Ringo is my favourite bit of Come Together. It's just so good. The string arrangements across all the album is beautiful, especially in Something, and George is really on his A game here in his singing and in his writing and just everything. He is just doing so well on this album. All the early Beatles harmonies are back, especially in songs like Because and Sun King. It's just beautiful. Like, their voices just blend in the most gorgeous way. Like, it's so beautiful, so lovely. This perfect way to end your discography with Abbey Road. I know Let It Be was released later, but this was the last album they've recorded together, and it just goes out with such a bang. Like, it's just so good. The medley of side B, the medley is fantastic. It's just such an amazing journey, and especially the end with all the different guitar solos. Even Ringo's drumming solo is fantastic, and the way the orchestra builds in the end with George's final guitar solo, and then it just closes, and then you get a little bit of Hey Majesty. It's like one quick little goodbye and then it's gone. It's just fantastic. All the reprise of You Never Give Me Your Money in Carry That Weight with the horns is just makes me cry almost. The synths, like Maxwell's Silver Hammer has and Here Comes the Sun have the Moog synth. So this album was really becoming way more advanced. It's like it has also the album has 8-track on it instead of like the standard 4. It's just doing so much more, and they progressed so much in their final months, and it's just great. It's really showing the future of what the 70s was about to show in their music. I Want You, She's So Heavy, amazing song. I didn't like it at first, but I was foolish then. That song is amazing. The heaviness of the guitars, almost like a precursor to heavy metal in a way, but then also the smoothness of like the instrumental sections. I love it. It's just so good. Plus the organ in that song, plus the backing vocals. When it's George, John and Paul doing heavy, 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 blows me away every time. I love it. The album still sounds so new and relevant today. Some of the Beatles stuff can sound from its time or sound dated, but Abbey Road always sounds fresh to me. It always sounds like it's very timeless. It's a very timeless album, and yeah, the album really takes you on a journey, and it's just a perfect way to say goodbye. And I always feel blown away listening to this album, so that's why it's number 1 for me. And yeah, and I like every single track. This is the one album where I have the same amount of energy and optimism for every single song, and they excelled so much here. I know a lot of people may think, oh, she's picked Abbey Road and Sgt. Pepper at the top. Of course she has. Yet they're like the most popular albums for a reason, you know? Like, they're so incredible. I almost think in a way like people don't realise how good Abbey Road is. Like, when you think of Abbey Road, you might only think of Here Comes the Sun, Something and Come Together. But I feel like the other tracks like Because and Sun King and You Never Give Me Your Money, they need to be talked about a whole lot more because they're just so amazing. So that's my video. I really hope I made sense. This was the third time I've tried making this video. I had to write down notes because I was really struggling trying to get my thoughts out into cohesive words. Coherent. See, I'm messing up here. So I really hope you understand why I've ranked them in the way I have. And yeah, please feel free to share your opinions, but just remember these were my opinions. So if you do have a different opinion, please be nice about it and let's have a nice, interesting conversation. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video and I'll be back soon. Bye guys!